Hey everyone, welcome to another $1,000 strap search. I've got my $1,000 in singles here and I'm about to show you what I found. But before I do, let's talk about this week's tip. Now, when it comes to getting value out of your notes, you have to understand grading because the difference between a grade 8 and a grade 20 is significant. The difference between a grade 8 and a grade 12 can be significant. The thing is that the vast majority of notes, especially in lower condition, aren't graded. So you have to determine the grade yourself. And it's pretty important to be able to understand those grades. I always talk about the $1 and $2 CSAs with the green overprint, and in a grade 8 they're $45 and $75, but in a grade 20 they're $500 and $1,000. That's a huge discrepancy between grade 8 and grade 20. I would highly recommend picking up one or two notes that have been graded a grade 8 or a grade 10, just so you can hold these notes in your hand and see what the grading companies consider a grade 8 or a 10 or a 12 compared to what a 20 would look like. Because if you can see what the grading company considers these notes to be, that makes your eye develop so much better when it comes to looking at raw notes. Me personally, if a note is ungraded, I pretty much look at the grade 8 price, the VG8 price. If I can tell the note is decent, I never try to go above grade 20 with my evaluations as far as for myself purchasing notes. Because I also know there's a fine line between a 20, a 25, and a 30. But I can tell the difference between a 20 and an 8. So generally speaking, I try to pick up my notes based on the value being an 8 and hoping that they're going to come out in the grade 20. All right, that's where we're starting. Let's get these out of the way and take a look at what I found this week. Got a little bit of a stack here. Starting off, have an alternator, 7-8, 7-3, 7-3, 7-5. An alternator is just like quads, except it's spread apart. It's 4 digits alternating rather than 4 digits together. No additional value on that. I thought this was neat. This is nothing. 8776, 9778. At first I was thinking, is it a flipper? But no, the 7s upside down aren't. But it's 8xx6, 9xx8. And if we turn that over again, it's still 8xx6, 9xx8. I just thought it was neat. Is this worth anything? No. Would I ever pay money for this? No. But it's my collection. And if I find something neat when I'm searching, yeah, I'm going to pull it. And I thought that was kind of neat, so I pulled it. Bunch of trinaries. Trinaries, of course, are worthless. I pull trinaries trying to match numbers, and I show trinaries just so you guys can see how common trinaries are. Every week when I show trinaries, the question isn't, did I find a trinary? The question is, how many? And when you're asking how many you find, well, that's your first hint that they are worthless. This is 2s, 3s, and 7s, 1s, 3s, and 9s, 5s, 6s, and 7s, 0s, 1s, and 5s, 3s, 6s, and 8s, 1s, 2s, and 7s, 0s, 7s, and 8s. Once again, stop me when you feel these are no longer rare. 1s, 2s, and 5s, 0s, 5s, and 8s, 5s, 7s, and 8s. And then I get to quads. I save quads for the same reason. Quads have no additional value. But by saving quads, I'm trying to pair serial numbers. I may have 1,000 quads sitting around, and you know something? When I pair enough of them, I will probably just turn them back into the bank because they aren't worth anything. I'm not going to try to rip people off like other people. Quad 1s, quad 5s, quad 5s again, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Still not worth anything. If those 5 zeros were leading, that would mean that it would be 0, and then it would most likely be 989. That would be considered a low digit, a low serial number, and that would be worth money. This is not. Then your star. I've got some stars. 2021 star, always check to see if they are filled. 2017A, 2017A, 2017, and it's a trinary, and I've watched scammers call this a mini radar because if you ignore the 0, you have 11444411, and that's a radar. All you have to do is cover up one number. There, it's a radar. So yes, if you can cover up numbers, this would be a fancy serial number. Problem is you can't. If you are using the word mini to describe a fancy serial number, it is not worth anything. Period. End of story. There's no debate. Let's see. 2013 star, another 2013 star, 2013 B star, and it happens to be in the duplicate series. The duplicate series for the 2013 Bs would be 250,000 or less. That's it. And 032 to 096. This one is 080. That most certainly is in the range. I got some older notes. 2003A, rough shape, gonna go back. 2003A, also in very rough shape, taped together, going away. 2003A. I'll pull out any note that's 20 years or older. I only save the good ones. This one's got, that is not an error. That is just ink marker. You can tell it goes through right there, all the way through the note. So no, that is not a printing error. 2003A, 2003. 2001, rough shape. 2001, also rough shape. 1995, looking to see if it's a web note. It is not. Check to see the plate. 210, not a rare plate. Another one, not a web note. And if we look there, not the right plate number. Another one, also checking the plate number, not happening. 1988A, still not a web note. And the oldest note I found was from 1988. So those were my finds from this week. What did I pull out? I pulled out a note that I'm going to be featuring in an upcoming sale. Let me just show you what I got here. This is a 1918 graded Federal Reserve Bank note. Now, this note here, you can see Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Missouri, $1. And you can see it's not in the greatest of shape, but it has been graded by PCGS. And from this, we can see it is the FR737. You can see the signature combinations, it lists the plate stuff. And yeah, by looking at the grade on this, I mean, let's look at this real close. You can see it's kind of rough all along the top there. You can see it's got tons of handling. This note is pretty well beat. The thing is this note is graded. And if I turn it over, it has a clean back. So whatever you want to say about this note, you can say, but the grade is the grade. The grading company determined the grade on this, and who are we to argue with that? Now, this one is a Federal Reserve Bank note from Kansas City, so it's one of the shorter printed notes, so that's kind of cool. And the thing is with it being graded, we don't have to worry about any of this stuff here because it's already been taken into consideration. So now that you've seen this note front and back, once again, I'll even go over the back again just a little bit more so you can appreciate the note. What grade did this get? Any guesses? I don't know. I think it's kind of obvious what the grade is personally. And this is exactly why I appreciate having a note graded in this condition. Because now I can compare this note with any raw notes I find. And what is the final grade? Well, you guessed it. It's a VG8. Very good, 8. That's what PCGS called this note. I don't disagree. That is most certainly what a grade 8 note would look like. The thing is that since the note is graded an 8, that makes pricing it pretty easy, doesn't it? Let's take a look at the book. I'll set this down. We're going to pull out paper money of the United States, and we're going to look for 737. There it is, 737 Kansas City, 1918, $1. And if we look at all those, all the columns, the very first column, as you can see on top, is VG8. So we're just looking at the very first column over here, and you can see that in a VG8, that grades out at 125 bucks. It's 250 in a 20, and you can see choice uncirculated, it's $1,000 for gem uncirculated, 65, I should say. But right there, we're talking the price on that Kansas City note, 125 in VG8. If you saw this note raw, would you pay $125 for it? Don't know. But someone did, and someone then got it graded. So now there is no argument as far as the grade. Knowing that this is what an 8 looks like, does that change your perspective on some of the notes that you've seen raw? Because a note can be pretty rough and still qualify for that VG8. And that's the important thing about this particular note. Yeah, I will be selling this one, and I will not be selling it for the VG8 price. You know me, it's going to be going cheaper than that. But this is what an 8 would look like. So if you find notes in better shape than this and people are asking lower than the VG8 price, I'd call that a deal. All right, if you learned anything new this week, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.